Before heading to the video, if you haven't subscribed the channel, do subscribe it and don't forget to click the bell icon for the latest update notification. If you like the video, do like, comment and share. Stay tuned with LearnBay.co. Happy learning!
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, so today we are going to understand or kind of work with Flask. So we will see some code over there, how to work with Flask actually. But in meanwhile, first of all, let's try to understand the idea that how things really work here. Okay, so now let's say you have an ML model. Okay, so can anyone tell me what is the ML model really?
Pattern recognition.
Sorry, I did not get it. Can you say that again?
Like identifying the pattern in the data.
Okay, identifying the pattern in data. No, but just if forget everything, that would be a kind of a definition for machine learning itself. What is the ML model exactly? In most cases, what is this model really? When you save the model through sklearn or something, what is this exactly? Can anyone put some highlights over there?
Which gives prediction and especially do the classification jobs and other things.
Okay, so the idea is model. I like to think it as trained hypothesis. So the idea is you have an incoming data. And model is, let's say, doing the inference or predict function. You can think like that as well. So it is doing inference, or you can think it as predict function. And thus you are getting the output. Okay, what happens when I pass the incoming data for testing or validation? Does it changes the model?
Yes.
Sorry, I did not hear that.
Yes, it changed the model.
No, the model stays the same. The model stays the same.
Model stays the same. So what really happens when we just pass the incoming data usually?
We get the results, the output.
Okay, let's take a simple example. Forget anything complex. So if I have y is equal to, and again, let's just take a simple linear regression example where I go theta I, xi. Okay. So you can maybe think it as like, means you can expand it from 0 to n. And you can think like this equation becomes theta 1 x1 plus theta 2 x2 plus dot 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 theta n xn plus some theta naught, which is technically the bias term. Okay, so what do you think the model really contains?
The thetas actually. Yeah. So my axis will change. Like as and when the new data comes in, the axis will change, but my thetas and all the betas, the estimates today is the same.
So basically, the model is nothing but, in a most simplest sense, I'm trying to understand. Of course, there is some more information here, but let's say the model is nothing but, it's a dictionary. Okay, let's call it a dictionary just to be on a very safe side. So what does this dictionary contains? N is value, theta 2, maybe not in the string term, sorry, but it's value. Okay, and till theta n, and also of course theta 0 means bias will also have to be stored here. Okay, so it basically contains this dictionary. And this dictionary is nothing but the values in a key value pair is okay. Same is for neural networks and a lot of other things. Of course, at the end of the day, you can say, no, sir, it is sklearn model actually, which is getting saved. So it's an object. That is also true. But in a very plain sense, if I had to explain you that what is might be happening internally is, it basically stores these theta values or the parameters values basically once after the training has happened. And basically that's on that we are working here. Okay, actually I like to show one example here just to make things clear for everyone, because I understand a lot of people come from different kind of initial classes, so maybe it has been covered, it might not have been covered. So just I will take a small time. It may feel like a small revision, but just to understand, make you understand what really this file of model really is, so that it doesn't become like a too big of a thing, like what really you are doing with this model file and stuff. So maybe just let me check if I have the file. LR with numpy. Yeah. So when I teach basically linear regression, this is the first exercise we do usually, and I will share you the link so you guys can also at least go once through it. It's a relatively a simple exercise and there is nothing very tricky here, but I just want you to understand like what is really a model and what do we intend to do, especially when the model is trained. Okay, so maybe I can give you the link. Okay, so I'm just passing this link on the chat so you guys can definitely look at it right now. Okay, so just by simple using numpy and matplotlib, I will be basically running this example. Okay, so fundamentally what I'm doing is I will go a bit quick here. Okay, I will not go step by step and stuff. So first I'm creating an equally spaced data points, so minus 10 to 10, 100 points. Then I'm creating an equation, let's say, or I can also take a linear equation if I wanted to understand it just. So it will be like sine data, sine into data x plus point into power of data x to the squared plus some random noise. Okay. Then we scale it. So scaling by the maximum value. Okay. And the data is basically presented to you. Okay. So let's say if we were to run it, this is your data. So this is like 100 points that we have got here. And then we do a H stack. Basically, we basically provide ones. Okay. Basically, I want to have this kind of equation at the end of the day, that y hat is nothing but theta 1 x1 plus theta naught x naught, but we do not have x naught. So what we have done is we have created an own vector of ones. Okay. And theta naught is basically behaving like a bias, so that I get a joint equation theta I xi where it goes from 0 to 1. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So far, any problem? Okay.
That's it.
Okay, so basically, I do a horizontal stacking here. Okay, so the data is ready. Basically, what we will do is first we will.
So this is like weights, right? This is like putting weights.
No. This is data. This is your data itself.
Okay.
This is the data itself. This has been mathematically created. Okay, by this equation x and y. And based on this, basically you have to run a numerical regression. Okay, so first I do a random permutation of the length of the data, and then basically I separate out the data into 80-20. Okay, all right. So this is your random, let's say test set, because test set is usually smaller. Okay, now what do I do is first, just to show you guys, let's plot this data and see how it looks like. So this is how it looks like now. Okay, means so we will not try to do a linear regression, we will do a kind of a polynomial regression here, but again we can change the equations and we can do the linear regression as well. So this is how your data is looking like, guys. Okay, now what do we do is we make everything this is like coding from scratch. Okay, so we try to get a gradient. I hope you remember the steps in linear regression, right?
Mhm.
Okay, cool. So W is basically theta, x is your input and y is the output. So the equation is very simple here. Y is equal to summation of W dot x. or wi dot xi, let's call it like this. Okay, so w and x both are vectors, and y will also be a vector at the end of the day. So what is y estimate? Basically it is y hat. So my hypothesis, so I'm just taking a non-linear hypothesis from the start, let's say, means we can test it with linear hypothesis as well. So I'm saying y estimate or y hat is nothing but first we are applying, so there is a dot operation and we are flattening it later. So first do a x squared, or maybe think like w dot x squared, and maybe you are trying to do a summation for all of them. Okay, and w dot x square you are going to apply. Okay, so this gives you an idea that it is going to be a non-linear system now. Okay, now first we calculate error. I hope you know what is the error. Okay, or some people will write it reverse as well. Okay, so now what kind of loss function we use usually in machine learning, sorry, in linear regression, what kind of loss function we use?
R square.
Sorry?
R square.
No,
Sorry. It's error sum square. ESS. Error sum square.
Yeah, so either you go for MSE or you go for OLS. So I'm gonna go with MSE right now. Okay. So either you can take ordinary least squares or you can go with MSE, that is mean squared error. Anyone remembers the equation of MSE? Means it is literally in the name. Error, think about it, mean squared error. So you already have error. So what is error here? Square it and get a mean, so summation. Make sense?
So it is divided by total number of output, right?
Yeah, so see here. So you take error, square it, sum all of them.
Yeah, got
and then
it.
basically divide by the length. Make sense to everyone? Okay. Now what is gradient? So gradient, unless you don't remember, again, you don't have to worry too much here.
This is gradient descent, right? Because it's in negative.
So gradient. First, you will find the gradient to do the gradient descent. So basically, what I'm asking is, whatever loss function you have, do a w with respect to w or whatever your parameter is, theta or something. So what is your loss function? Okay, and I'm asking you to do this. So what would be the outcome? Can anyone tell me? Come on, you guys know this. So you can just ignore 1 by m altogether. So you can just take it out. Okay, nothing to see here. What you should do internally. So y hat has to be converted into its constituent idea that it is nothing but wi into xi, but here it is squared. So remember that part. Minus y, which will again be treated like a constant. The overall thing is squared. So what if I were to do first like this? First, I would like to wi xi squared and whatever minus y is. Okay, or maybe I can ignore y. Sorry, why I'm doing y with y. So basically, what are you gonna get here? Basically, this will turn to 0. So basically, to solve this problem, we are gonna go in a chain rule idea. Okay. And usually, sometime to just balance it out, we actually put a 2 here. So this will basically balance out once this thing happens, and then wi. So what will happen if anyone remembers their basic calculus? So basically 2 will come out here. Basically you can separate it out and y will be completely taken out, or maybe you can put y here as well, but that will be basically eliminated after a while. So you get 2 and which you can cancel out, but what is remaining then? Again, you have this term at the end of the day, wixi. So again, I can just convert it back into error, and because I have x squared, which will remain as it is. So wi is gone, x squared. So this is where the equation actually came from. So what happened is basically now you get 1 by m into error into x square, which is, if you look carefully, okay. Now we have got the gradient and we have got the loss value. So this is just a function. So this function will return you gradient as well as the loss value. So we can check like, are we able to train in the right direction or not? Now this is where the whole story starts. W is what really?
Random weights.
Random weights. So basically I have created an array basically. Okay. And we are just generating two of them. So W is nothing but right now an array which contains, you can think, W0 and W1. Make sense? Both of them are floating points. What is alpha? Anyone?
So learning rate.
Yeah, alpha is nothing but its learning rate. So let's take 0.25, means you can change the values. And what is tolerance? Anyone knows? So the problem is we will technically run an infinite loop. Okay, you will see this. We will technically run an infinite loop and we want something to break this infinite loop. Otherwise the training will just continue even if there is no change. So we have decided, so this is nothing but this is 10 to the power minus 3. Okay, so first we will print the initial values of weight. These will be the random weights that it generates. We will mark a flag called iteration, that will be 1 while true. Now you can see this is an infinite loop.
Yeah.
So what do we do is for each step, for each iteration, we get gradient and error from this function. How? By passing w, x and y. Okay. So the weights will be passed from here. Initially in the first go, they are the random weights, but in the next, that's not going to be the case. Now gradient step, descent step is very simple. Basically you update the w, like whatever the previous value minus alpha. Alpha is your learning rate, and with the gradient term itself. So gradient term we have already defined or we have already figured out. Okay, so we are getting this whole term anyways in terms of gradient. So we can just do alpha minus alpha into gradient w. Okay, so the previous w will be, so the current w will be updated like previous w minus alpha into 1 by m into error into x squared. Make sense? So this will give you the new w, current w, let's say. And again, remember it's an array. So both of them, w0 and w, you can imagine w0 and w1. Both are getting updated at the same time. So what it technically is happening is, it is like doing something like this. Okay, w0 minus alpha, error. Okay, now here for w0, x1 is xi actually. So xi is basically 1, so it doesn't matter. It will remain like this. W1 is nothing but 1 by m error into x, whatever x1 is. Okay, because basically x0 squared is nothing, it's just 1, so square 1 is just 1 anyway. So okay, and this will get updated. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Now, now because it's an infinite loop, at some point I have to stop the training, right? So when I know how to stop the training, or why, sorry, when should we stop the training?
When it reaches a minimum threshold.
Convergence, when it converges, rather.
But how, what is the definition of convergence?
When my error becomes 0, actually.
No, that might not ever happen.
Near to 0.
Near to 0.
Some very, very small point. Very small.
Again, there is no
Can go near tolerance. Right?
There is no definition of real what near to 0 means, because there could be infinite points between 0 to 1 itself. If you are going to track the loss, that's going to be a problem that you will run into. That how do you know? Because there are infinite points between 0 to 1. So which one is near to 0 technically? You can always find a number which is even more nearer to 0 than Technically, it should never stop because it can go till infinity. Although it's floating point, so whatever till amount of decimal resolution we are getting. So basically, simple idea is after a while you will observe W new minus W, the change is minuscule. So you can cut it out and you can say if this change is less than 10 to the power minus 3, the overall absolute sum, let's say, let's put absolute term as well. Then basically I'm going to stop. So this tolerance value is very much decided by us. So we check that if this change of weights is negligible, we print converged and we break the loop. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Rest of the stuff is not too hard. What do we do?
And what if we select a very low tolerance point? It will keep on oscillating.
It will just run a bit more. That's all. It's more iterations it will run.
Yeah, but there is a possibility it will never touch that point, right? It will keep on oscillating back and forth.
Yeah, so you will have to put some kind of early stopping that if the changes are not happening too much, maybe after 10 iterations, something you will have to stop. And if iteration number, sometime it does happen, the algorithm doesn't converge, then you will have to restart again, reinitialize the values, random values, and restart. That is also a scenario, but it's very rare. So for every 10, I want there is an icon. So what I'm saying here is there is a real chance that it could happen to you as well, that it might not converge, but that's a very one terms of linear regression. In neural network, it is slightly a bigger concern, but in linear regression, that's a very low concern here. Okay, all right. So basically at every 10th iteration, I'm just trying to print out my iteration number and error and updated weight. So by that iteration, what is the weight value? So that is what we want to print. This is clear to everyone?
Yeah.
Okay. So what to do next? So what should we do next, guys?
Once it converges, we finalize the estimates for the models and
Exactly.
yeah.
So what do we do is first, one thing you will have to do is you will have to keep track of iteration number, and you will have to keep swapping the new W with the previous W is getting swapped with the new W. Okay, all right. So that when it goes for the next iteration, it actually faces the new W. And then once you are out of the loop, this is for the test case. So you can print final weights and you can print the test case as well. Okay. So once if I run this, what will happen? I can show you. See, so initial values are randomly put there. You can see this. And at every 10th iteration or something, we are seeing that error will come down and you will see there is a change in the weights as well. So what is the initial equation, random equation that we are building here? The equation is like 0.99 x1 plus 0.2735 is equal to y. Okay, that is the equation you are building. After 10th iteration, basically it figures out, means it learns that the equation should be like 267 x1 plus 2.3 is equal to y. Okay, and this learning keeps on happening. As we go down, you will see that after a while it will see the error, or you can see here the values are not changing that much now. Can you see that the values change is very negligible now?
Yes.
Yeah. So after a while, it will start to saturate. It will come to the convergence point. At some point, it will say converge. So it definitely happens after 250 iterations. Before 260, otherwise 260 would also would have been printed. And the final weights after the optimization, or basically your learning, is this. So what is the final equation looking like? Oh, sorry, I forgot about the x square, my bad. So actually your final equation is looking like this. Parabolic equation basically. And we can run the data on test cost. So you can see there is not too much difference. The MSE error is after the optimization for training data is 0.81. And of course, test cost is going to be a bit more. It is 1.1786, which is not very far away from here. Okay. So we can understand this might be a good fit, not exactly we want a correct fit or exact fit, but we do want a good enough fit. So how does the equation will look like? If I were to run this is how your final equation is going to look like. Y is equal to 9.672699 or 2996 x squared plus 0.21199. And this is your final equation or hypothesis that we have been able to get. Let's plot the data, and we have been able to separate. So we will color train and test in different colors. One is in blue, one is in red, so that you will understand it better. See what happens. Is it clear? How did this thing happen?
Yes.
Okay. So if I were to just add one more thing, then what is model really? Oh, sorry, my bad. I must have stored them as W, right? Sorry. So what is W really? Here I have treated it as an array, but I could also have treated it as a dictionary, which would have stored the values of W1, W2, or W0 and W1. Okay. So basically, this is the model actually. You might not believe it, but this is the model. All these values. So basically, if you were to store them in dictionary format, how would you store them? Basically, you would say dictionary W0 is equal to 0.21992874, comma, W1 is 9.67299. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Just making sure that you understand this, otherwise a lot of people do get very confused after a while. Okay, fine. So coming back to our topic now. Okay, so let's say you have your ML model, and let's say it's a sklearn object, which again contains the values of these parameters. Okay, you pass your incoming data. Okay, and let's say this is your model, and it gives you the output. Okay, this is your incoming data. This makes sense to everyone?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Now the thing is, okay, this is the basic structure, but then on what kind of architecture or what kind of software we should put it in? That's the bigger discussion. This is the basic incoming simple idea, but most of the struggle you will see is to how to put the incoming data, and of course how to instantiate the model. But more work is to put the incoming data properly, okay, and then how to display out the output. Most of the struggle is about this. So our deployment task is mostly about this rather than actually creating the model. We are not taking a very hard and serious model. We are just trying to understand that model creation is just one small part. How to put data continuous here, or how to put the input continuously here, is a bigger task. And of course, how to display the output or how to interpret the output is a bigger issue. So first, let me explain how our web designs or websites work. Anyone has worked in web app development or something like that? Okay, so when you go to www.facebook.com, what do you think happens really? So if I open my CMD and if I were to ping facebook.com, what will happen?
The DNS server of the laptop will try to fetch the IP of the facebook.com.
Yeah, so basically it goes through IP provider, Internet Service Provider, ISP basically. So there are some services, I'm forgetting the exact word. It is in Oslo, Norway, okay. So they maintain kind of a centralized repository for all the DNS and their IP constructs, okay, IP links. So you can think it as like kind of a like key value pair itself. And you can think like at any time when you you hit facebook.com, it goes there and it tries to figure out which IP currently and for India, what the IP they have assigned, or for my user location, what IP I have been assigned, so that I can find Facebook. Okay, right, again, because, so what is IP exactly? What is IP address actually?
It's addressed to the server system.
Anyone else? So basically, it's a kind of a numerical number. These days we are using IPv6, but earlier we had IPv4. So basically, it is called Internet Protocol Address. So basically, it's kind of a numerical label. It's literally like a label assigned against your house or plot number given to your home. That is for each device that is connected. Each one gets its own IP. So when you put in your router, have you ever seen like what IP you get? So in your router management or your router admin, you can see the IP assigned to each device that is connected over there. Okay, so basically that's how you find a device over internet. If in very simple terms I have to tell you, that's how you find a device over internet. Now the idea is, let's say I have a computer. Okay, so let's say I have my own computer and I want to host a website. So what do I require to host a website?
Server.
No, but your computer is the server, right? As of now.
The IP name and the IP address and the domain name.
Exactly. You require a domain name. Now, unfortunately for our examples, today we will not have domain names. But just telling you for the complete work, if you have to do this, there are various ways to get a domain. So like you can go for GoDaddy or Google Domains. Okay, there are like n number of them. Domains.com, domain.com is also there. So first of all, you will have to buy a domain. Okay, so let's call it, let's give some like Netflix. Of course it is taken, but just telling you. So it will basically show you there are multiple options and it will like these are not available. So you can maybe try something else. Okay, and so you will have to pay there and you will have to buy it and get it in card, make the payment, and basically you will get your DNS links over there. Okay, and basically those DNS links have to be provided on configuration of your website. One sec guys, one sec. Okay. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, can you hear me? Hello.
Yeah.
All right. Okay,
Yes.
so what I was telling is, okay, first you will have to buy the domain name, and you will have to basically purchase it, and you will get your DNS links over there, okay, which you will basically later enter in your website configuration to ensure that those are available for the whole world to access. But the problem is, okay, if I use my own computer, what is the issue?
People can't access from anywhere in the world because it's a local system.
No, but again, I just provided a basically DNS, so means DNS. So if my IP and DNS are linked, again, they will be able to find it.
Yeah, it will crash if many people hit.
Yeah, exactly. It will crash. First of all, it is dependent on your internet speed, okay? Because your computer is put somewhere, let's say. So your computer is here. Then you have a router, okay? And this router is again connected to your ISP. So whichever company.
Can't hear you.
Hello. Sorry, I think my internet is slightly wavering right now. Okay, so computer, router, ISP, okay? So now this ISP is gonna broadcast, or like let's say is gonna handle through its own servers connections from throughout the world. Now the problem is there are multiple bottlenecks, okay? First is your router or your internet speed that you have taken from your ISP. If it is like say 50 Mbps plan, it will get like throttled after a while. If your site actually becomes a hit and there are a lot of connections. So it happens like when Facebook was, or Face Mash, when Zuckerberg created this Face Mash or something initially. So he took down, so he hosted it on Harvard servers itself, and it took down Harvard servers altogether in the night itself. So that's the, even when Google was formed, it was actually started on Stanford servers itself. And after a while, there was so much traffic that Stanford had to ask them to move out, that they cannot host the website on the Stanford server altogether. So you can actually host things on your own computer. No one is really stopping you. It just is a matter of configurations and firewalls. Problem is, plus my computer I can just shut off by mistake, right? I can go and shut off by mistake, and then the whole website is down. So basically you want system, or you want, yeah, let's call them computer systems anyways. So basically you want these computer systems online, always online, let's call this always online. And of course you want the backup as well. So if one system goes down, other system should take its place immediately. So that's why we use servers. Now, who provide these servers really?
Those who have space, Amazon and all that.
No, yeah, that is the cloud space. Clouds ones are even more powerful, but you can find simple servers as well. You don't always have to go. So like HostGator is one of the very popular ones. So just to hold a website, I'm not talking about machine learning and everything right now. I'm just talking about simple web hosting. If you want to do, you can go there and you can start like as I like started one of my initial websites on something similar plans like this. Like I took like some 99 or 100 rupees plan per month and I started there. Okay, so HostGator, and there are even there is one Indian one like which is called Chennai Host, which is also comparatively cheaper to a lot of options. So actually, one of my mutual contacts know this guys, so they got me a very good deal here. So even this one is good. So basically, you basically go there and you check like what kind of server. If you want a dedicated server or you just want a small website hosting. So let's say you go for Linux hosting and you check like which one is you want right now. So let's say you want the gold or use silver. So let's say I have the gold right now. So it basically tells you like what it is and how much bandwidth you are going to provide. Okay. So it is like if you get the silver, it will host maximum 5 domains, 5 different domains, 1 GB web space. So that much data you can store, 10 GB bandwidth. This is the internet speed they are willing to provide you. Unlimited emails, unlimited file transfer. One sec, guys. Just give me one moment. Okay, all right. Now the problem is server is like a kind of, how do I say? It is used in two senses. Okay, server is of course a physical thing, but server is something, is basically kind of a service. Okay, so there are different kind of servers basically. Anyone knows about these servers? So your World Wide Web basically supports a lot of different protocols, guys. HTTP is one of them. Okay, and of course the secured version is HTTPS. It basically comes with SSL encryption immediately. So HTTP is one of them, but again there are different protocols like file transfer protocol, FTP. Then you have SSH protocol, okay, secure cell, and then you have SFTP, secure file transfer protocol. Okay, you have SMTP, simple mail transfer protocol. Each one has its own configurations, and sometimes depending on requirement, you could have a different servers dedicated for them, or maybe a single server can be configured to use for most of this thing. So basically, whenever we say HTTP server, what it means is it's kind of a service which basically abides the HTTP rules. So these days, like we are using like HTTP 1 right now, HTTP 1.1 version. Okay. So whatever the protocol says, like how HTTP should be dictated, that's how it takes care of it. So the transmission needs to follow the transfer protocol, how HTTP dictates. Okay, so I will talk about some REST protocols later. Now the server is something where you could put your model, and that is what we are gonna be learning now. So basically, one of the common architectures that a lot of people are shown in their colleges as well. So you have your backend first, where you basically have all kinds of logic, and this is on a server. Okay, you could have your middleware or your router, which might manage traffic. It could be also your ISP itself. You might not have a dedicated router. This will do your load balancing or whatever. Okay. Then you have your front-end users. And the backend will also have control over DB, let's say. It might have control over file systems. So it might have multiple folders there. So it might have a control over file system as well. Database. Okay. And you can of course attach different services here as well. And now front end people get what exactly?
Your logic processed data.
Sorry, I did not get it. Front end will have what?
Whatever your logic gives as output.
Yeah, okay, fine. So front end usually has a basic HTML, HTML, CSS design. Of course, you can put more things like React.js. Okay, for front end logic, you can have AngularJS. For visualizations and stuff, you could have jQuery as well, Ajax as well. Okay, so there are a lot of protocols these days. Okay, so there's no list. There is no simple list even to consider here. It could become pretty big after a while. Fine. So, of course, based on whatever logic is decided or whatever authentication is decided by server, it again gives back the information, and in front end, you will be able to see that information. It can be dynamically populated as well. Dynamically populated is something that is not already given like a static. So sometime when the website of Facebook loads, there are some static elements that will load nevertheless. But then your feed is customized from person 1 to person 2. Okay. All right.
Sir, just a small doubt.
So
What's the difference between Windows hosting and Linux hosting?
one has a Windows OS, one has a okay. If you have a Windows hosting, then mostly they will be running some version of Windows Server. Although I personally don't like Windows Server. Okay, let me be very clear. If you choose Linux hosting, and most world's like 95% hosting services, I think use Linux itself, means some version of Linux. So it could be Red Hat, OpenSUSE, and there are like a lot of variants. Even Ubuntu server is there. So if you want to try, you can try Ubuntu server as well. So people mostly use some kind of Linux version. 95% of systems throughout in this world use some kind of Linux variants. Few 4-5% barely use Windows Server. Okay. So of course this decision is mostly made by DevOps. Like, but again, it's 95% is like a majority here, right? So there is not much competition here. Linux, of course, will take the front seat here. So basically, you will have to encode and code everything. So my point is, if you were to open GCP or AWS, their backend, the OS which they have is for your instance is some kind of Linux variant itself. So it will pay off if you know Linux, or if you know how to code in Linux or how to operate in Linux. It would be much easier for you. Okay. And again, most of the time you just get a command line. You do not actually get a GUI to work on. So you need to know your command line approach properly, how to pull or do anything. So that's why even I will be taking some examples through command line itself. And then basically you can render it on the front end as well. Okay, now this is the whole design. Okay, so this is how on World Wide Web things look like. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Now problem is right now, we will go to this idea. Now we can exploit, or we can kill, or not kill, sorry. We can switch the server with the cloud. Okay. So fundamentally, what is cloud, if I may ask? Rather than using a server, we are saying the word cloud now these days. What is cloud really?
I think cloud is also like a server only.
Yes, just servers. Okay. Many times I just feel that people in terms of becoming fancy have started to use, but okay, there is a real change as well. Okay. So let me explain you. There are three concepts that you need to understand. One is called IaaS, one is called PaaS, and last is called SaaS. Okay, do you understand the difference between all three?
No, sir.
Okay, let me explain. So server or cloud technologies come into these three categories. Okay, IaaS is infrastructure as service. So let's talk about IaaS first. Infrastructure as a service. What it means is the cloud provider or the server company is gonna just provide you the bare metal. So when I say bare metal, it just means, let's say you are like literally given a CPU or a network device. There is no software installed over there. You are provided CPU, network devices or whatever, and you have to put all the softwares or whatever you want to use. It is just the infrastructure that you are getting, but it will not provide you any kind of software. Any kind of, even OS is not provided in the IaaS. And there is just the infrastructure that is provided to you. Okay, that's called IaaS. Now what is PaaS? Platform as a service.
One question on IaaS, infrastructure as service. So without software, it's of no use, right? So I need to install my software there, or how is that?
Sorry, I did not get it. Yeah, you can put any software that you want then.
Okay, we need to go and install our software.
It is getting like a assembled CPU or a CPU at your home. It will definitely have a DOS. I'm not saying it will have nothing. It will have a BIOS and a DOS. But rest everything is up to you, what you want to install and how you want to configure. Okay, so if you get IIS, you need to have a very strong DevOps team first of all. Otherwise, it is hard to handle for a normal developer. It is not going to be easy to handle this IIS system. So a lot of people, what they do is they go for a PaaS. What is PaaS? PaaS is AWS, Google Cloud, Azure. So even they can also be considered as SaaS as well. Just not PaaS, they can very easily be classified as SaaS because they do provide software as a service as well. But still, what is platform as a service? So you have your hardware plus the OS plus some essential or APIs. So you do get the hardware, but now you get essential APIs like load balancer and a lot of other things are also inbuilt over there. App servers are provided already. So you don't have to build an app server from scratch, or you don't have to build a load balancer from scratch. That is provided. OS is provided as well. So with AWS, Azure and GCP, you can have your pick of OSs. And if you get a paid one like REHL or Windows Server, you will have to also pay extra for the license part as well. Okay. So that is called a platform as a service. And most of the time GCP, Azure and AWS would be considered as a platform as a service. But these days, because they have so many softwares over there as well. Okay. So the last one is called SaaS, and a lot of startups basically work on SaaS level because working on a hardware level is very costly. So for a lot of startups, it is not even viable. So a lot of startups, what they will do is they will, let's say, run a machine learning model, or they will train a machine learning model and provide this model as a service. Okay, so you can consider almost it as a SaaS. So maybe I will launch an API of my model, and I will say anyone with a registration with me who can register with me can use this API, application programming interface. Okay, and they so the end user doesn't have to worry about the hardware, OS, and any kind of ML model, how it works, how it trains, nothing. They just need to know how to call the API, and they need to work, because this is why I was telling, because these days even GCP and everyone, so there is something called auto ML. Okay, and there are different so even in GCP you have something called auto ML. So these models are already available, and using them is really a breeze. Okay, so everything is already available. You just need to know which API to call, and again it will take. But the problem is, major issue is, you will not be able to configure them easily. Okay, so you can do the predefined task and maybe you can do some changes, but if you have some very custom task which doesn't fit any of these definitions, then using auto ML is not a good idea at this moment. Okay, then you have to configure something on your own. So did you guys get the idea, like what I'm trying to tell here?
Can you please repeat on that platform as a service, please?
Okay, so platform as a service also, look, first, of course, it provides you hardware on a rental basis technically, and it takes care of essential APIs. So again, look, any kind of major cloud service needs to have a load balancer, right? From different geographic regions, or if there is a single server that you have bought, it needs to have load balancer. Otherwise, who will manage the traffic, right? Then you need to have some kind of like a cache mechanism. Otherwise, data will be really slow to load. So again, if I were to get with IIS, I have to build all of these on my own, or buy tools and install all of them. Usually on PaaS, they are integrated already. Maybe there is some extra cost for them, but it is mostly integrated already.
Okay, like
okay.
AWS.
Okay, and software as a service is like on top of PaaS, like on platform OS, you design a software and you let it provide, or you provide it as a service to everyone. So the level of abstraction is increasing. So in IIS, you have direct access to the hardware straight up. So this is why I told you in IIS, if you are just directly dealing with IIS, you need to have a very good DevOps team to handle all those hardware and configure them properly, put the network devices in place, and configure load balancers on your own. You can buy load balancers, means there are open tools available right now, but you will have to configure everything. In PaaS, a lot of these things are already taken care of. So you don't have to go ahead and install an OS over there. No, it is already there. any kind of disk management, load management, everything has been taken care of it. App servers are already provided. So you don't have to build an app server or buy an app server and put it there and that will launch everything. No, everything is already there. Many times DB and these things are also provided. So if you were to go to Azure right now, let's say, if I, and you guys can also try on Azure as well. So let's say if you go to cloud computing services, so you can start free here. Okay. So again, they will give you some like 13,000 some rupees credit, and it is like 12 months of free service. Like I will tell you, I think something is free. Okay. No, sorry. I don't want to sign up right now. So you have 12 months, 13,000 rupees credit, always free. Yeah, there is 25 services. If I can see what are these services. So a lot of these services are basically free. So let me just show you. Yeah, I got it now. So you can get Linux virtual machine, 750 hours. Okay. You will need to know what is the exact configuration. 5 GB of blob storage. This is like your hard disk. Again, file storage, 5 GB is provided. SQL database is provided. This is why I'm calling this as a PaaS. Or even in some terms, when you think about it already provides AI plus machine learning, then it also becomes a SaaS as well. Okay, it's just not PaaS right now. See, it also handles the data transfer and networking part as well. So 15 GB outbound it can handle. You can also get the full list of whatever the free objects they are provided. So they will provide you anomaly detector, form recognizer. Okay, they will provide you translator. So this is where it becomes SaaS completely, because a lot of these common APIs are provided by it. Again, remember, these are common APIs, so they do not always work better for any custom need. Okay, sometimes you have to reconfigure it, or maybe you have to create your own. And this is where your knowledge of data, becoming a data scientist or deep learning engineer will pay off after a while. But you can see a lot of these features Azure has kind of put there. And you can see there is Cosmos DB, which is basically an alternative of MongoDB. App services are provided. Functions is like API store. Test labs is there. Kubernetes services there. So if you put a lot of Dockers, it can handle. And there is an event grid, which I'm not 100% sure what it is. So these services you can see, and again, you can keep checking like how many services are free. You can see their DevOps, Service Fabric, Advisor, Load Balancer is free. So if you were to get an IIS, you will have to build or buy everything and put it there. So IIS is of course cheaper, but then are you willing to have such a big engineering team to build everything? Like it contains automation, batch processing, cataloging, notification hub. All of these things are available. So you need to have a pretty big team to handle all of this.
Sir, one doubt is there.
Sure.
In this Azure, all the models are already there by them. They made like computer vision, natural language models. They have predefined model. What if we want to put our custom model in their server? How we will do that?
You train on your own time, of course. That is where the business is, right? You train on there. Let's say I get a Microsoft Azure VM, dedicated VM with graphics card and everything. And I will show this in GCP as well, don't worry. So let me show you. Maybe I will just take the GCP example right now. So we can get a GCP pricing calculator. And same is available for AWS and Azure as well. So you feel free to check it out, okay? So go here, let's say, and you can choose your VM. So the idea is you will have to train. So you will need to have these systems. Let's say you do not have personally have system, but let's say you have the money. So usually I go for a free server, free OS. So you can see that it will install some Debian version of CentOS, CoreOS, or Ubuntu. Or you can also use some user provided OS, but rest of them are paid. You get with the SQL standard, you get with Red Hat, or you get with Windows Server 2008 R2 or 2012 R2. Anyways, I'm not going to go for paid one. You will have to choose what kind of, so let's go for regular itself. There is a different, so depending on your use case, you can go for compute optimized or general purpose. If you want too much RAM, then memory optimized is better. But let's start with general. Let's get a proper system first. So how much RAM do you want? Let's say I go with 4 CPUs and 15 GB of RAM. Let's add a GPU. So Tesla K80 is a very low powered GPU. So let's get a better GPU. and maybe get 2 of them. Okay. And local SSD, yeah, one SSD is required because a lot of data, you might have to put some data. Now it depends how much you want to use. Maybe you will be using 24/7, maybe you will not be using. So maybe I will just put 12 hours a day. Okay. And let's put it to as estimate. So it is saying it will cost me 30736 per 1 month. Okay. So how much is in the money? Sorry, in rupees. So right now it is what, 75 or 74 rupees. So 307 into 74 rupees is 22,718 rupees. So you can understand it will go to around 22,800 rupees per month with this configuration where I have 2 NVIDIA Tesla T4s. Over there, it is just like an online server which has a Ubuntu OS, which with these 2 graphics card and this much 15 GB of RAM and whatnot. Okay. And based on this, and you have like 375 GB hard disk space as well, which is a SSD, which is pretty good actually. And if you configure this, and if you work for like close to 365 total hours per month, means running almost 12 hours per day, you will get like $307. Means again, it's estimated. It can go up and down a bit as well. So you buy this, or basically you get this, and this is how they make money at the end of the day. You will have to train, you will have to pay this much money to, let's say, GCP, if you run it for 12 hours per day for 1 month, and this would be your cost.
So basically, we build a front end from GoDaddy or whatever servers are there in the market, and then from there we place an API to the cloud services for the ML models and all.
Exactly. So you have to get a domain first because you need to connect it with some front-end DNS, right? Otherwise, and this is the problem with our example, that we will not be able to connect to a front-end DNS. Okay. So we will just be showing you at the back end, and we will just create a virtual environment to show you everything. But if you were to connect it with a front-end DNS, if you were to buy a website and get the DNS match, then we could also connect it with your front end. And again, but then there is a hard work of building a front end as well. Okay. So let me show you what like with, so we are building something called deep interview. Okay. Oh, sorry, my bad. So we have our GCP servers live right now. So we are doing our internal alpha testing, and soon it will be available for beta testing as well. Okay. So this is the front end that we have deployed, and we have got, I think, this hosting from GoDaddy itself. Okay. So this is our DNS. Okay. So if you were to take this and let's say try to hit this one. Now, because we have a load balancer, you will not actually ever see our actual IP. Okay, so this 34.98 is a GCP server, but it's not actual our IP of our server. Actually, I think if I remember correctly, it starts from some 35 number. Okay. So it keeps on changing the internal number, and this number will keep on changing after a while. So what we have is we have a backend in GCP, which has a load balancer, and the front end is live through this DNS. And this DNS was bought, this domain name was basically bought from GoDaddy. So this is the whole thing, that if you want to do the whole thing, so it's just not the GCP for the front end display or something, you will have to also buy some kind of domain to link it with. Okay. All right. This is clear so far?
Yes.
Okay. Guys, let's take 5 minutes break. After 5 minutes, we will start again. Okay. Okay, all right, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Now the idea is, or the plan here is, and basically I've shown you the example last week anyways. Plan is to have a server or a cloud instance, which is let's say GCP. So it is, let's say, providing you a VM. VM means virtual machine. Just think it as a computer or a server which is connected, through internet and is available for, let's say, rest of the world, and you have the exclusive access over there. Even VM can be shared, so on a single VM maybe multiple users are also available. Okay, let's say this dedicated VM is all yours. Let's mention it as machine 1, machine 01. Okay, or give it some kind of cool name. Okay, and now here OS is already there, let's say, because again it's a PaaS, so we are talking like OS is already there. Even it has Ubuntu, remember it will not have any of GUI, okay? Nothing. It will just have a terminal access. And if you're good with terminal, you should not have any problems technically, but now because this has an OS, so basically it has your so here you can install, let's say, Flask or plus Python, whatever you have, plus whatever your MLS learn or whatever it is. Okay. Now through Flask, we will have our REST protocol. So through REST calls, REST, through HTTP, of course, HTTP or HTTPS, let's say, we will have now on GCP, even the middleware router is also controlled by GCP itself. So you don't have to worry about this part as well. Now you only have to design the front end, which will be rendered to your end users. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. So I have shown you a front end last week, right? So Flask is technically a backend framework in Python, or a lot of people call it a micro backend because it doesn't has all the necessary libraries or functionalities even. So it has a micro backend framework in Python. It's just easier to learn and easier to run, to be very honest. Otherwise, Django is a much better tool, but it takes like 4 or 5 days to understand most of the topics. So you have your Flask, and Flask will handle all the logic. It can also connect with your DB. It can also take care of authentication. Again, for everything, you have to download a separate library, but Flask can work with it, the rest of them. Okay.
So
and
we have installed Flask in the GCP server.
Yeah. On GCP, in that instance, that machine 1, we will have to install Flask as well. Okay, means we will have to create our basic Python framework anyways over there, because we are going to be coding in Python. So we will put Python, Flask, and any supporting libraries, sklearn or whatever, over there anyways. Okay.
So, Amrita, like to install Flask, you just have to say pip install Flask, right? Good enough.
Yeah, I will just show you. Don't worry. We have not started with Flask, but I will show you how to install Flask and everything. So now the whole study first comes on that if you want to do a small deployment, now within Flask, I have shown you in the code last week anyways. Sorry, not this. You can put your ML model. This is your ML model, let's say. Okay. This is what will get the request. So Flask will take care of how the request comes in, how it is provided to the model. Then model predict function will give you the prediction, and then Flask will send it all the way, the prediction, to the front end. Make sense?
Yeah.
Think about the last week example and think about the last week's example and think what we were doing over there. We had a front end, if you remember, and over there you had to enter 3 things, right? So on the front end, you had to enter 3 things in the form. What were they?
Yeah.
So over there, you will enter something, although there was no authentication or something. Anyone, whoever can visit the website can just enter and can get a result. Okay. But of course, if you want to make it complicated, you can also put a authentication first of all, that it is a recognized user or not. And maybe only after the authentication, Flask will maintain a session for you. And only in that live session, you will be able to run it. Now, I don't want to get into a web development part. Okay, that's a separate discussion. Okay, that will take like 20-30 hours for people who are really interested in all of this. I will just give you the basics so that at least you get interested and you understand how things work. Okay. Is anyone here from web development? First of all, I wanted to know actually that part. Means anyone does this backend stuff or like write some core logic at any point for any web app or website? So fundamentally for our backend requirements, so in Python, we have two major options. Okay. One is called Flask, which we are going to use. But again, on a professional note, I will not suggest Flask to people. Okay. There are multiple problems here. Okay. So problem is, this is of course a micro framework, first of all. And the issue is everything has to be installed separately. Anything you want to do, anything, you will have to install a separate file. Fine. Let's say even if you do that, Flask can maximum handle maybe 1,000 parallel requests. After a while, Flask is not going to go forward much. Okay. So our professional, my professional suggestion would be to use Django if you want to stick with Python only. Okay. Django is, although they will say it is easier, but definitely it is not as easy as Flask. But it is more complete if you take my advice, because I have worked back in 2013 itself. So I was actually employed at a startup back then in 2013, and they were using Django at that very moment. Okay, so I learned Django long back ago. Like no one ever, like in my whole complete friend circle, not a single person knew about Django. Now everyone is wanting to become a Django developer or a mean stack developer or something like that. So Django is like, I think what, 10 or 11 years old already, I guess. So it is really fast, and you can scale it. Django can go for millions of users. There is not a problem here. Okay. So like Quora was also on Django for a long time actually. So that's my whole point, that if you want to go for millions of users, then you have to stick with Django. Then you cannot go with Flask. Flask is good for like hobby websites, like if you want to test some basically hypothesis or something. Flask is good for that part. Okay. Flask is not meant for handling like enterprise level. Okay. So be very careful. I'm not suggesting Flask as an enterprise level at any moment. I'm just telling you it is a simpler example. The example becomes simple when we take Flask, but at no point imagine it as a enterprise level thing. Okay. For that, you will have to learn Django, and it will take a bit more time to understand how things work. Okay, so we will start with Flask, and we will see what are the features of Flask, how to use it, Flask, and what kind of code we can run today. And again, these codes are available in the online Google Drive, so maybe Abhishek can help you with that. Okay. So Flask is a web application framework, okay, or backend framework written in Python. So Armin Ronacher, who leads basically international group of Python enthusiasts called Pocco, develops it. Flask is based on Werkzeug WSGI toolkit and Jinja 2 template engine. So WSGI means Web Server Gateway Interface, is a standard for Python. So WSGI is also used by Django as well. Okay. So it's kind of a universal interface between a web server and a web application. And Jinja 2 is a popular templating engine for Python. So basically how the data should be sourced and how data should be organized. Jinja 2 has certain specifications, and that's how you should put the data over there. So basically WSGI toolkit implements request, response object, and all the other utility functions. Now remember, Flask is referred as a micro framework. Okay, it's not a complete framework. It aims to keep the core of an application simple but yet extensible. Flask does not have built-in abstraction layer for database handling, nor does it have form validation support, which is pretty basic to have a form validation. Okay, and Flask support an extension to add such, but you can add everything. You can get a third-party Python library and it will work with Flask. So Flask doesn't even have like a database handling, neither it cannot directly handle REST APIs or something like that, but you can install third-party softwares and then it will start to work. Okay, so you can like put, like if you want to use, let's say, I'm just giving you an example. So if you want to use Flask with SQLite, okay. So if you want to just go with this one, so if you want to use it, I'm forgetting which library even to think there is a library. So SQLite 3, okay. So you will have to import first SQLite 3. So in Python SQLite 3. So first you will have to install SQLite 3, a separate library, which is available with Python. I'm not saying it is not already there, but then a separate library will basically take care of it. Otherwise it doesn't work. Okay. So there is not a default any Python root connection or any kind of a database connection directly inbuilt. You have to call SQLite to even do that task. Okay. Similarly, there are for REST API, like if you want to use Flask REST API. Okay. So there is something called Flask RESTful, which is again a third-party software. Okay. And basically you will have to again install this one as well to just work with a RESTful API. So you have to do a pip install Flask RESTful. Okay. So that's what I'm trying to tell, that internally it would not have almost anything major. Okay. But you could install a third-party software or third-party library here, and that will take care of the problem. So what are the prerequisites? Okay, so to design anything basic on websites, one needs to know HTML and CSS. Okay, but unfortunately we are not going to cover HTML and CSS. You need to have Python, of course, because it's a Python framework. Please take some time out if you really want to design a front end, and try to learn some basic HTML and CSS to develop basic front ends at least with Flask. Installation is very simple. Just do a simple pip install Flask. Okay, so I already have this actually, so maybe let me try this. So I can directly go to, let's say, CD documents Flask demo development, right? Oh, so sorry, LS will not work. Yeah, this is what I miss with Windows actually. Okay, so all the major files are there. Okay, no problem. So basically, if you were to run Python and you were to start any basic one, let's say what are the names? Let's say if you wanted to do intro.py. So let me show you what happens. So it is kind of running in a production environment directly. Okay. It will use a WSGI server. Okay. If you wanted to use it in a deployment or development environment, debug mode is on. I will tell you what it means. Okay. And debugger is active and the pin is this, and it is running on this protocol, this IP. So I might have told you anyways what this IP means. Okay. Right now by default on it should run on 5000, but in the code we have changed it actually a bit. So that is why it is running on 80. So you can specify different port numbers as well. So you have your IP, but then you also have your port numbers as well. So maybe you can try localhost and do a 80, or maybe I can directly do localhost. 80 is kind of a default port for HTTP, 8080 or 80. So it should be able to take care of this, but let me just see. On Windows, I am not very happy with the performance, the way it works. It is the same thing anyways. Everyone, can you guys install Flask right now?
Yeah, so I have installed the Flask in my Ubuntu with a virtual environment as of like what I saw from one of a blog to install the Flask. So I have a query, as in like first we have to enable the virtual environment and then like come into the my Flask kind of like folder or file there, and then enable the server.
One sec. Okay. Give me an option. So you have your virtual environment, right? So it is in Anaconda, or you have created it through Ubuntu itself?
Just through Ubuntu. From terminal itself, like first I created the virtual environment in a folder,
Right.
and then inside that I installed the Flask with pip install Flask. Till this I have done. Yeah.
Okay, so it should work. Then there is no problem. Okay, it should work. Yeah, it is a better idea to create a virtual environment. But means I also have my own virtual environments in Ubuntu, but in Windows, of course, I'm not using it. So yeah, this is the problem. So I'm not sure why it is causing this issue. You will see something will happen when I will try to do this. So it just doesn't sometimes. Okay, now it has really stopped. So on like in terminal, it never gives me these kind of issues, but here like I get like all kinds of issues running this documents Flask. Okay. Okay, no worries. We will go one by one and we will try to see this, how this site and how the logic is working. So first, make sure guys install Flask first of all, simple pip install Flask. Even if you want to do a small hello world here, okay, so there are some certain things that we need to know about it, okay. So first you have to import from Flask, import Flask. So importing Flask module of course is mandatory. Then basically you have to kind of do a constructor. This is just a Flask constructor, which basically takes the current names, current module name as argument. Basically it is like putting a self keyword, okay. Then you provide @ root underscore. So basically it is like a URL. Okay, how many people know what URL is? It is called as Universal Resource Locator. What is Universal Resource Locator?
Like specific website link, you can say.
So it directs the, it tells us all the files where it is located in a
You
server.
can think it as like an address. So you type like www.facebook.com/ let's say admin. So basically each page can be given a unique link, and of course there could be a massive key or there could be a session ID or something like that. Okay, it could be made as unique as possible. So basically you can provide, it is like giving an address of a file, to be very honest. Okay, so each page, each individual page can get its own address. So let's say if I were to go on one sec. Let's say I were to go on amazon.com. Okay. Okay, so here we are on amazon.com. You can see, so this is the universal resource locator. But if you were to go on a category, and I think I can get a category here. So let's try something like pet supplies, dogs. See what happened here. This is the universal resource locator. Of course, it provides its own IDs and hash values here, how to reference it. But you can see here in a desktop as a international dogs. So this is, they have created a specific page or a specific URL to reach to dog supplies. Okay, and you can also choose different like computers, and or maybe not. Okay, let's choose HP. Okay, and here it provides the ID. So this is like a universal resource locator. So by default, so basically one single slash means nothing, means the default one. So it is like if you were to go ahead and type whatever your local host is. So you say localhost. You can remove this and slash. Okay. So this is like loading the index page or loading the starting page itself. Of course, you can give very complex routes right here. You can give a proper logic how to generate the route dynamically. Then what it means is this decorator is now associated with this function, which is immediately after it. So if you just give a normal slash after that, your local host, it means it has to call hello world. Now, what is hello world? Hello world is basically a function right now which is bound to this URL or this /, and basically it returns a string called hello world. Okay, and if the name is basically underscore
Can you please just repeat from that URL?
Sorry, I did not get it. Sorry.
Can you start from that URL? Just last.
This point?
No. Before that, we are talking about that Amazon.
Okay. So basically what I'm trying to tell is URL could be made like, okay, I can go in localhost admin. Okay. Maybe I could have localhost user. So these are like different web pages that we can define or create. Okay. And giving the URL, basically it is like by doing each function or each pass in URL, I can bind it with a function as well, Python function. And then the Python function will take care what it has to display. So for doing dynamic displays, it is really important that I do not have to set some constant values. The function will take care of whatever values it get. It will take care that what should I show back to the user. Okay, so URL is a universal resource locator, and that's what I was showing on the Amazon site. That if I were to go to Amazon.com without logging in, okay, if you were to log in there, it might look slightly different. Okay, and if you were to choose something like Swiss. Okay, so you have Alpine Swiss or something. So you can see here that what just happened when I searched here, this URL has been created randomly. Okay, didn't knew what I'm gonna search, but based on that and the category that it figured out, luggage international shipment. Okay, it basically generated a random page. So basically what happens is internally it has a function which checks what is the input and accordingly throws out the output. So it basically generates all these values, or basically it populates all these frames in real time.
Okay.
Get the idea?
Yeah.
Okay. And basically this will run the class, or sorry, basically this will access and run the class. So maybe let's start with some basic code. Okay, first of all. So okay, cancel. So if you do not provide the port value, and I will show you what happens. Okay, so this is a very basic file. Okay, and we have now in Jinja 2 templating version, we need to have a separate template or separate file for the templating part. And let's say we have index file already. So let me show you what is the index file first of all. One sec. So open with. Okay, it's a simple file. Okay, it just simply says there is a HTML head. Okay, and then there is the inside the head we have the title. Then we have a simple body which says hello HTML world, welcome to LearnBay. Then the body is closed, then the HTML is closed. So if I were to call index HTML, or if I were to run intro.py, it would simply render the HTML. Or rather than doing this much, first let me show you the first part. Okay, how to do the basic stuff. So maybe you can directly print out something. Forget the HTML part. We can print out something directly hello world. Okay. So on by default, what it means is if you give it a / or even if you do not give it just directly free / index function is linked with this root. Okay, app.root. Okay, app is nothing, is just a Flask object. It's a constructor. Okay, and this is gonna run. Now debug true means if I make some changes in the HTML or something, I do not need to shut down my server altogether, and I will show you what it means. So let's do like Python intro.py. I hope this time it runs properly. Okay, so if I can. Okay, let's give it a try anyways. So let's try localhost and give the port number 5000. Now, if you don't want to give the port number as 5000, you can put 8080 or 80 is best. Okay, so by default HTTP port number is 8080. So then you don't have to give the port number as 5000. Okay, but by default, if you do not provide the port value, sorry, then it will choose it as like 5000. Okay, I'm not sure why it is not displaying today, or it is taking too much time because it should display, right? Connection is timed out. So see this forward slash after this one. Can you see this forward slash? So basically this is what
Yeah.
I'm trying to say, that this forward slash basically means hello world or whatever the function, let's say our function is index, right? Index function will be called if it encounters the forward slash in the URL. Now, I'm not sure why it is not running today. Okay.
Actually, in that we are seeing HTTPS here in this.
So, okay, let me make sure that that is gone. Ideally, yeah. Thank you. Why? Means earlier it would not give a problem. Did they change something? Okay, fine. So yeah, by default, maybe because of the HTTPS problem, it just selected that. So now again, because it's a server, I can go anywhere. Okay, localhost 5000, and all from my all browsers, I will try to hit it. Okay. See, and I will be able to see here that how many browsers or how many access points are there. Now, again, it's a local host, so it is running, everything is running on my system. So my system is the back end as well. It is the front end as well. So there is nothing very fancy happening here. Okay. But this is the same idea that if it was running on a backend server, and if we had the middleware router access, we could see this, how many people are accessing something and they are getting the result back. Okay. And again, if you were to refresh it, what will happen here? Oh, come on. So if it refreshes or if I reload, again a new line will be created and you will see the impact that it has been just like access right now. And you can keep seeing it that the access is changing. It was 10:42 29 seconds, 10:42 38 seconds. Okay. And if it was different servers or if it were different machines, okay, it would even show you that there are different IPs that they are trying to access. But because everything is on a single server, so you will not be seeing any different IP. Everything will be at 127.0.0.1, which is basically my local host. This makes sense? Why don't you guys give this code a try right now on your own system? Go ahead and just write this small amount of code, and I'll wait for like a couple of minutes, and let's see how many people are able to run it.
One question.
Yeah, tell me.
If we want to run the backend in one system and the front end in one, then how do we do it?
So basically you will have to configure your DNS, okay? That basically one system should know where to look for that IP. So you can make a small DNS registry, or basically you can do a IP, there is a tool, I'm forgetting what is IP matcher or something.
I can write in Jupyter Notebook.
Hey guys, will you be able to run this code?
So this one we have to write in. You can write in Jupyter Notebook as well, right?
You can try, but I will really prefer if everyone does it in script mode itself.
So can you show me actually where we can do it?
Sorry, what?
So I was trying to do in Jupyter Notebook. Where we have to do this?
No, so in Jupyter it's not working?
Yeah, it is throwing error saying that unexpected end of file while parsing.
I think in Jupyter Notebook, you won't be able to create the server and kind of see the output in a browser.
Yeah, that is the problem.
address.
That's why I'm telling
Yeah.
everyone to go with the script mode. Do you have like Spider or something? If you have installed Anaconda, you must have sorry.
Spider is there, yeah.
So if you have a Spider, that should be good enough. Or you can simply write .py file, go to Anaconda prompt like I did. Went there and just simply load it through Python, that file name and .py, okay? And that will run, okay? Means you have to leave this habit of Anaconda after a while, okay? In companies or something, you do not code like things like this.
But the file where I have to store it, I mean like
Anywhere, it doesn't matter. So you just have to give the path. Okay, Python is gonna be accessible throughout your computer if you have given the universal path at the system config or system settings, okay? And just run Python intro.py, this should take care of it.
Okay, sure, I'll do that.
Hey Mani, that's good. And so Mani was able to run it. Yeah, in terminal actually it is better actually, you know. If we were to do it, but the problem is my pen pad sometimes doesn't works very well in Ubuntu. But in a browser getting a type error, you are getting view function. Okay, so there is some issue in your code, Mani, technically. Have you followed the code exactly the way I have provided? Usually this error comes when you have kind of missed out something. So .py file can be written even in Notepad. Forget anything. You can just open your Notepad. You can write this code. Save it as .py. It is better to write it in a file, Mani, to be very honest. Write it in a file, make a habit. If you have a gedit, look man, either go for Sublime. First of all, let me give you a simple advice, okay? If you want to be a really good practitioner, start doing these things, basic, okay? Either get used to some proper IDE like VS Code. VS Code is one of them, pretty good. Even in our company right now, we are using VS Code. You can go for PyCharm, a bit heavy, but really old one and really good one actually. So PyCharm also gets your work done. Okay, so you can also develop your expertise in PyCharm. You can of course do through Notepad++. This is again a very lightweight, but gets the work done very well. Sublime Text is of course there, so Sublime 3 might be available. So go for Sublime, again a very lightweight and useful. Before VS Code, I was very happy with Atom, to be very honest. So even in Atom, you can configure it with Python and almost any language. So my advice is leave Jupyter behind a bit now. Okay, if you want to do some serious projects and coding, install some proper like IDEs or configure it with Python. Okay, great. And start working in either of these. I don't care which one you choose. Okay, of course, a person can write it in Notepad++, gedit, or even Vim or Emacs. I'm not caring which one, but start writing in this .py script idea. Okay, in companies you cannot really run this IPNBY file that you run. Okay, so get out of this idea as fast as you can. It was good for displaying things. It was good while the teaching was going on. But I really do not like when people start to do some really large scale codes in IPNBY file. It makes it very hard to debug actually. Spider,
We see that
Spider is anyways there, like what is there to recommend? PyCharm is much better anyways. Okay, I will wholeheartedly recommend PyCharm, Visual Studio Code and Atom. I have used all these three. Sublime I also use. In Windows I have Sublime but I don't do much coding in Sublime anyways. So go for PyCharm. But PyCharm is not
PyCharm.
So you need to have good RAM over there.
Yeah.
So if you want
PyCharm is there in Ubuntu, as in like we can
almost
work
all five I told
run?
you. Totally available for Ubuntu as well. So don't worry. Even for Mac as well, if someone has a Mac, all 5 will work on Mac as well.
Okay.
Okay, so Windows, Mac, Ubuntu, all are covered. So don't worry. This is why I have selected the 5 correct ones, right? And you can download it for any variant and configure it for Python or any other language. VS Code like works with like 107 languages, so you don't have to worry like which language it will not work. It will work with practically any language right now. So just telling you that you can get VS Code or anything and maybe start properly coding now. Okay, means try to make it like a package or make it like a library, configure multiple files together. Okay, do a proper import. So maybe get out of this idea of using the Jupyter notebook time.
Can you please show me that command if you are running that Python file, right? The prompt.
Sorry, I did not get it. Sorry.
Show me the command when you are running that Python file, right?
Python. What is the command means? It is simple Python, right?
Okay. I thought
Python will call your Python interpreter and whatever the file name is, intro.py.
Yeah. I got it. I thought you used Flask or some other command. Sorry.
No. Python. Flask is an internal library. Once it runs, it will usually give you the HTTP. So you do not think too much about IP. It is basically a local host. And just remember the port number. I hope most people have been able to run this one.
It's still running.
Check that HTTPS thing. Maybe the issue which I am getting, maybe you are also getting the same issue. So maybe remove the HTTPS altogether. Yes, I think that happens in Firefox anyways. So ensure that there is nothing before localhost. There should not be any HTTPS. Otherwise, it will cause an issue. Okay, I know a lot of people do not understand. Okay, how many people first of all know what debug means? So, okay, what happens in servers is, okay, I will just try to give you a simple idea. Debug mode on means that basically you can change some code, not the code logic. Maybe you can make HTML and change in some CSS, and you don't have to restart the server. Means server is live and you can change the HTML code. That is what debug means. So if I run something and if I do not like it, and I'm like, okay, shift this box by 5 pixels. So I can just go in HTML code, shift the box by 5 pixels, refresh it, refresh the web page, and the change will happen. So if debug mode is on, but I'm doing a return function, right? Okay, don't worry. If you don't mind, I will kill this one altogether. Okay, and I will just show you a debug idea with just another code. So now, what if you wanted to show a HTML page rather than directly returning something? So there is something called render template index.html. Now, your file should be inside a folder called templates. Okay, and let's say index file is available. Now this is your index file, and I think I have already opened it, right? Yeah, index.html. So let's say this is your file, right? This is your simple HTML file. So what happens if I run this intro.py? Make sure you save it once you have made the changes. So what will happen, guys, if I run this code? Okay, it will start. Again, if I were to go ahead and refresh these pages, what will happen now? It will say, and okay, sorry, I think I did not call that function, did I? Okay, small, my bad. So you will have to call a function called render template. Sorry, my bad. Somehow I did not import it. Okay, let me restart it. Let's see if this takes care of it. Yeah, so the main Python logic, I think it will not be able to handle. Okay, so maybe I will do Control C. Okay, no, it did actually. Sorry, it gets stuck here. Okay, so what did I do is you saw what just happened, right? So render template was not even called, means it was not even imported. So it threw an error immediately that it is not available, right? Now what happened? I called render template. Now debug mode is true, right? So what happened exactly? Did anyone see very carefully? I called it, I saved it, and when I refreshed it, it just loaded it immediately. You can now, of course, it will work in all of these three. Let me show you through other example over there itself. Okay, so what is the content? It says hello HTML world, welcome to LearnBay, right? What if in running, see the server is running right now, I have not shut down the server. Okay, observe very carefully. So whenever I will change something, it will just restart immediately. If you change the core logic, it will restart internally because it knows debugger is active, so debug is true, so I have to restart. Okay, that it did all by itself. Now look carefully what will happen. So this is the index.html page, guys. So now I'm going to make change to index.html. So rather than doing hello HTML world, I will do hello LearnBay. Welcome to Flask programming sessions. Make sense? So I make a change. Now see what happens. Okay, no, nothing has happened. Look very carefully. If you change the Python code, it will restart, restarting with stat. Okay, because that's the problem. If you change the Python code, now it will happen automatically. You don't have to do anything. It will happen automatically. But if you change like HTML and CSS, which are considered static, no change has happened. But observe what will happen now. See, it changed without changing the server or restarting the server. Now you can go in all three basically. See, now did you guys get what just happened here with Flask? What debug true means actually? Any problem, any confusion about this debug mode?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Can
So
you show
basically,
that index HTML? So where you created that?
in templates, in Jinja 2 formatting, usually one should create a something file called templates. It will directly look in there. And over there, index HTML file is created and the code is right here. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Simple stuff. Any problem?
Yeah, it has thrown some error to me. So
Sir, what is the error, if I may ask?
it says like Jinja 2 exceptions template not found. Maybe I think we need to create. I need to create a template.
Yeah, you have to create the folder. You cannot just keep it anywhere. Name it templates only. Keep all the HTML files over there. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you have a CSS file, name it a static separate folder and keep all the CSS folder over there. CSS files. So this rule has to be followed actually, unfortunately. So let me show you, like we did this Flask deployment like last time. See, there is something called templates which contains the index file. So all the HTML file needs to be here. Any kind of CSS code needs to be here. Okay, and static. So this rule has to be followed. That's the Jinja 2 templating format. So it is expecting certain files in a certain folder itself, nowhere else. Make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. So this is okay. So there is another file which I would like to show you guys. So let's do intro render. Again, this is just a separate file. Same thing. We are trying to do the same thing, just with a different. Independently, we are trying to do. Again, just trying to explain that. By default, if you were to provide this slash, it will directly call the index function. It will run index.html itself, and that would be basically whatever is the outcome. It will show you as the outcome. Same experiment. So I'm not going to repeat that same thing. Okay. So this is clear how a basic code runs in Flask. These are some basic code that almost in all Flask code will be available. Of course, we are going to add more functionalities here. You guys would like to, let's move on. Okay.
Yeah.
So debug mode, again, I have tried to explain it properly anyways, that debug mode is nothing, is just that if you were to change HTML and CSS, all you have to do is refresh. Okay. If debug mode is true, and if you change the Python code, it automatically restarts. Okay. The way it kind of did here. If I change some Python code, it will automatically restart. So you see, it detects a change in this file, intro.py, so it reloads immediately. So this is the advantage of debug mode, that your server connection like never breaks. It just is maintained as it is. Make sense, guys?
One question here. What if you directly change the code without doing anything to the HTML page?
Sorry, I'm not getting. So that's what happened, right? See here, that is what I'm trying to say. It detects if it sees any change in the Python code, it will restart on its own. You don't have to restart it. It will restart on its own.
Okay, for me, it's not restarting. I had to stop it and again do it. So
is your debugger true?
No.
Of course it will. That is right. Okay, in this code, this is the point I'm trying to make. If debug is true, then only. If debug is false, okay. If you just do app.run and if you do not put debug is equal to true, then of course you have to restart, otherwise it will fail. So whenever we are testing, debug has to be true. But when it is in deployment or production, we do not put debug is equal to true. Otherwise, anyone will be able to change the site at any point. That is what you not want, because the whole site can go up in flames basically.
Okay.
So when we are testing, sometimes it is like about looks, okay? That, oh, shift the box by 5 pixels. Oh no, it is too right. Shift the box back by 2 pixels. You don't want to like restart your server for doing that part, right? So that is where debug true comes in really handy. Okay, all right. So next, let's go to next one. Now, it is totally possible to build this URL dynamically. Okay, so you could put a variable name, or just put like these angular brackets, and you can put any variable over there. And based on that variable name, now it could be a session ID, it could be user ID. Okay, you can create different for different users. You can maybe create different pages as well. So like your Facebook page and my Facebook page are gonna look a bit different. Okay, your homepage and my homepage are gonna look different. But how can then you do understand, like Facebook engineers do not create everyone's page individually. They create a structure and the data is filled dynamically over there, right? So let's see an example of a dynamic routing, or let's call it. So let's see how dynamic names work. So from Flask, I import everything just to be sure in. Okay. Again, we start, and now we are creating separate routes for different users. So this is like your normal name. So if your name is normal, it will return hello, whatever your name is. If you are admin, it will say hello admin. Okay. If you are a guest, it will say hello, whatever name as guest. So let's say hello Amrit as guest. And if I have created a normal user, then it will check is it an admin or not. And then it will, if it is an admin, then it will redirect to hello admin. Or if URL for is nothing, it's just gonna look for another function. Or if you are not an admin, then mostly you are a guest, it will redirect you to hello guest. Okay. So we will run this code and we will see how it works. So first I will have to terminate this code. Okay, come on. Okay, all right, sorry. So rather than using intro, we are gonna use dynamic name.py. Okay, sorry. Again, we will go to this location and see what happens. Okay, it says URL not found. Why? Okay. Any idea, guys, what is happening here? Why I'm getting this error? Yeah, because there is no default. If you look in the code again, there is nothing for the normal slash, just one forward slash, there is nothing. So you have to basically provide something here. No, it is just not admin. Okay, try to understand, Peter. It is just not admin. You can provide it in different ways. Let me show you what are the different ways possible. Again, we can try it. Remember, there is nothing for in this page or in this code, there is no binding with any function for a forward slash. So it will throw an error that it is not found. That's right. Let's say I do slash LearnBay. So what should be output? Anyone? What should be the output here? Hello LearnBay. So can you tell me which function got called? If you give a simple name, it will just simply say hello LearnBay. It will just repeat that same thing. If I can, and again, we can do it from different sections or browsers as well, just to check this it is actually working. Maybe I can do admin here. Hello admin. Okay. I can keep hitting it from different browsers, and maybe I can do it from here, and maybe I can do something like, so what should I write here? Guest slash my name, let's say hello Amrit as guest. Okay. See, for whatever way you create URLs, there is a logic defined here, let's say. And if you were to just provide user and just your name, okay, so it will check what kind of name it is. If name is admin, then it will directly go for admin, or it will go for the guest. So let me show you the final trick. So rather than doing this one, if you were to provide user and then say, let's say Amrit, it called internally the function of guest. And if I were to type guest, no, sorry. So it basically called guest internally. And if I were to call user slash, look very carefully. See, it directly went, even it redirects itself to the admin, and then it does the admin trick. And if I were to again put anything else apart from user slash, sorry, slash forward slash, and put any name, Jumbo. Hello Jumbo as guest, and see, it has redirected already to another function which was guest slash Jumbo. So we basically handle the logic in the backend, and it internally is redirecting these things. Make sense, guys?
Yeah.
Okay. If you want to run this code, take 5 minutes. You can run this code. Is it done?
Show me the code, please.
Okay, and you can also provide the data in terms of, means you can directly post that information in, let's say, HTML or like anything. So let's say this dictionary information can be posted to HTML as well, okay, or in HTML. So what we do is, in HTML, what you have to do here is, and let me show you the code here. That basically you have to pass that information, let's say in curly brackets, okay, and using the ampersand signs. And whatever information, let's say the dictionary name is result.items, then you can run and iterate it through key and values. And you can create this table dynamically now. Okay, so you don't have to define all the rows and columns. Whatever the dictionary will provide, and you will pass dictionary as result. And in random template, whatever you pass as a variable basically here, that can be read as a, that can be iterated upon, or you can do some basic logic over there. So you can do a small if else, or you can do a for loop over there, just to display how things are gonna. So this table is gonna be created dynamically now. So you have given the basic elements, but as many rows, as many columns, it will be able to create the whole table dynamically now. So if I were to kill this, and okay, and rather now I will go for Python dot table render .py. So let it start, and okay, let's see if it works here. Now here again, if you were to do this kind of stuff, you will get not found. That makes sense because there is again nothing. So if you want to do results, yeah. So this is where you are getting. So if you want to inspect the element, let's say if I can inspect the page source or inspect the element, you can see that basically this information, if you look carefully, has been populated dynamically here. Okay, so you can look in all of these three. So I did not create like 3 rows. It was dynamically created due to the for loop. And you can see this information dynamically populated because I will show you why. If we now, if I were to change the Python code, the server will restart basically. But let's say that's what I intend to do. So rather than getting a person, if a person got like 65, maybe let's say they got 78. Okay, save this. Now the moment you do a save, and if you were to rerun it, and you will see the problem. Not problem exactly. It will be able to restart. It will restart the server, and it will update the chemistry marks to 78. And you can see the marks of chemistry has changed to 78 altogether. So the idea is you can give a common generic structure, and you can dynamically populate this. So sorry, this is the same previous ideas anyways. So basically in random template, or we can basically dynamically populate the results as well. So we don't have to wait for the, or we don't have to give a structure for everything. If we can just tell it generic structure, and if we can even apply a normal for loop, that will take care of everything, or means that it will generate accordingly. So now after knowing all this, let me ask you the question. Okay. Now, because you have a small understanding what Flask is doing and how it is doing. Now, can you tell me, are you able to understand this code? This is the code that we saw last week, right?
This looks like it's just loading the file model.pickle.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's doing the post request API call and it getting the response in the JSON format.
Yeah, no, hold on. So see this. So what will happen? First of all, see. So when you will load it directly, it will render the template called index.html. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And if you were to run the predict function, or which is basically a post method, what it will happen is it will call something called predict function internally, which will take all the data from the form values. Okay. So basically that has been entered or activated by a button in the front end. Okay. In the HTML, basically this predict. Okay. Let me show you this HTML file as well, so that you understand what is really happening. So maybe let me open the index file here. Sublime text. Okay, so see this button, what it calls predict. So the method is post here. So these values will be posted. But when I click the button, it initiates the predict function basically in the backend. And this is basically /predict or predict function get activated. And this will render the results in the front end. So first it has to take the values from the form. It has to convert to an NumPy array, then make the prediction, round the values, round up the values to 2 decimal points only. And then through render HTML, pass this information, that extra line, employee salary should be this dollars, and format output. And over there, if you do this, it will pass on the values. So if you remember our result, and if I were to kill this, okay, so I will have to go a step behind here. CD Flask deployment. If I go there and if I run python.app.py, okay. So if I were to again go back here, sorry, not bad. So again, what will happen if I just do this? Tell me. You will get this, right? And again, you can try it on all my browsers. Whatever. Sorry, let me remove this. Okay. Now again, what you do is you put some experience. Let's say 2 years of experience, test score of 8, TV score of 5. Okay. Now when happens when I do this predict function, okay, and if I can inspect this, so this is what is going to activate the predict function internally. Okay, so the moment I will hit it, see what happens. It will redirect you to the predict URL, that is the dynamic URL. Now what it does, dynamic URL does is it calls a function. What is that function? Predict function. Okay, and that predict function does what? On the index HTML itself, it renders something called output, employee salary should be this, and this is what you see. Understood, guys? That what just my code, what this deploy kind of the server code is doing here, app.py. And again, you can try this parallelly at as many servers, not as many, means there is limit of 1,000 to 10,000 servers. After a while, it will start to crash basically. But if you keep doing this, and you will see all the requests that you are hitting, 200 is the correct request. So whenever it gets successful, it gives you the correct response. So see, so now I hope this code is a bit more clear than the previous one, when you saw it last week.
Can you explain once again this code? First, we are loading the file, right? Pickle file.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can go step by step. If you find any problem, please let me know. So guys,
Amrutansh,
yeah, hello.
one question, right? So where this is getting invoked, that home one, where you are saying that index dot return render template index.html, when this is getting invoked after calling predict, is it?
/ C.
Yeah.
So even if I just do this, forget this. Index.html got loaded.
But the point is actually if there are multiple people are running on the same server, then.
So that's the point of server, right? It basically creates that, and it can handle multiple requests in parallel. That's the point. Okay, so basically what happens is when you load, let's say one of my browsers has loaded this 200, right? So one copy of index.html, whatever was to be rendered, was sent on your system. Similarly, someone else was accessing from their system. One copy was sent to their system, only the front end, not the back end. Remember this part.
Okay.
And this guy also got their own render of the index.html. Okay, index.html is how big a file? See.
Got
Okay.
it. Yeah.
So what is there is no problem, right? Again, understand, we did not send our model file, okay, pickle or app file at all.
Yeah.
Let me explain this because I think some people will get confused after a while. So what happened, guys, through all this, what we are doing is the server and let's say the Flask logic, and Flask basically is containing your ML model. When a system, let's say user 1, user 2, and user 3 request something, what happens is Flask decides that they are a valid user, let's say, and send them the index.html, CSS and whatnot. Okay, CSS is also sent. So you can actually see the HTML and CSS in the front end. It is also sent to user 2, it's also sent to user 3, and as many users Flask can handle. But when it has to do a predict function, then what happens, guys? They post a request basically that, sir, I have some information about the user. Now the ML model is run internally here itself. Okay, so through the predict function, let's say predict, Flask sends them back a output to display on the HTML itself for each of them. If even if all three of them are hitting it parallelly or concurrently, let's say. At no point Flask sends anything backend logic or anything in the front end. Get the idea?
Okay.
So the model is safe at the backend itself. I'm not loading the model, in this case, in the front end. Make sense?
So basically everyone can input their own, entries, and, it will give its own response.
Exactly.
Concurrently.
That's the idea of server fundamentally. That it should be able to concurrently handle thousands or millions of users, depending on what kind of framework you are using, what kind of load balances you have, what kind of bandwidth you have. Now, of course, it depends on your bandwidth. Like if your internet bandwidth is very slow, after a while there will be a bottleneck, right? And this is why we get servers which have 10 Gbps, 20 Gbps, 50 Gbps bandwidth available. 50 Gbps is pretty lot, right? You are sending what, like index HTML of 2 KB and CSS is of how much? Yeah, let me show you. 6 KB. Total of 8 KB of information per user. How much data it will even consume here?
Yeah. So
Okay.
basically first index.html will get invoked, and then when you click on the predict, then I think it will go to that predict function. And
yeah, it will go to predict function, but remember, predict is just gonna return this one liner only. This much only it will return. That's it. Nothing else. It will render template as index.html with, let's say, an extra information that, see this was not filled earlier, so that was hidden. Now that information is available, so over there the values are refreshed or deleted, and the prediction text is displayed. So again, if you were to do this, what happens? So right now it is there, all these are empty. 9, let's provide 7, let's provide 8. Predict. See, all of this is wiped out and this information is provided. And again, if you want to go there, inspect the element, you can do this. Inspect element. So again, you have to understand this part is dynamically generated all the time. Okay.
Yeah, but
So
however, the prediction happens in the predict function only, right? You are calling that model.
exactly. But again, remember that happens in the back end. That
Yeah,
has nothing to do with the front
right.
end. It just invokes it. This button calls the predict function, or basically it goes to this /predict, and predict/predict is tied up with what? Binded with what? Predict function. Okay. Predict function takes the form values, converts them to integers, and by default it's a list anyways. And all of these lists are internally converted to arrays. Then predict function is run, then output is rounded up, and in the render template into HTML itself, I pass a simple text. That's it. So again, this Flask logic. So what I'm trying to say is, from outside world, you cannot see the Flask logic. You can only see the HTML and CSS, or maybe if there was some JS inspect or JS elements, you will not be able to see the backend Flash logic. Sorry. You can just see the HTML and CSS if you wanted to. Get the idea? Of course, you can see the network and style editor. So style editor will load the CSS. Of course, there are a lot of things, memory and whatnot. You can also look at the debugger if there was an issue. If you can also check a network issue. So if you were shipping some information regularly, you will see this. So this is my local host and this is the information username. So it internally creates a username for it. Okay, so of course we can check a lot of information here. We can also run some JS commands right here to check things. But again, remember, you will not be able to access Flask from the front end. All right.
So when you are saying that not able to access Flask from the front end, I mean, you'll not be able to see the code. That's what you're saying.
You cannot see this code. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
This code will safely reside on my GCP, AWS, or whatever. From front end, you cannot see or access this code at all. You will not even know what is the backend logic.
Yeah.
Got it? 1 minute, guys. Just give me 1 minute. Okay, guys, so this is clear how the code is running and what is happening in the front end as well as in the back end.
So, one thing is here that ML model is always stored as a pickle file, right?
It's not a requirement, but yeah, for most of your examples, yeah, it will be a pickle file.
Is stored by pickle file, and pickle file will be read by the Python code.
Yes.
Right. And what if suppose someone is using the pickle file and using different programming language, so okay, can it use?
Means, look, there are ways to port pickle file to different programming languages. If it is just C++, yeah, it is easy. Otherwise, you will have to maybe write a REST API which can communicate with the Python, or you can put all of this in a Docker or a container, and then around it you can write a wrapper in any other language as well. So that is totally okay. So yeah, that is a small problem, that if you store something in pickle file, it might not be able, you might not be able to read it from multiple different languages as well. So yeah, again, pickle is not like completely universal or something, but with C or C++, definitely it will run.
Okay. So can you just give a concept idea of what Docker is and container?
Okay, even to be very honest, even I am not an expert in Docker or container. So fundamentally, what Docker or container means is that uh, you keep an environment, you make an environment, okay, and this environment can be simply, let's say, copy pasted to another OS. Okay, so let's say in Python or Ubuntu, you make an environment right now. Now this environment with all its configuration can be simply ported to n number of different computers, and Docker is a system which can take care of the heterogeneity of the system, because Windows will be different, Ubuntu will be different, Mac OS will be different, but the same environment or same image can be basically copied to all of these multiple systems with different languages and stuff, and then the Docker environment can be just made live, and then everything starts to work. Okay, so that is the advantage of placing a Docker image, that if one image is correct and if it is working, if you have configured it properly in different OSs and in different systems, all of the Docker image should work. So it makes our life very easy, because then we are not configuring things day in, day out. So a lot of my DevOps friends really use Docker and swear by like Docker is the best thing that happens to them. Okay. So even Docker is like implemented very well already in like most of this Google and Azure Docker. It already comes with Docker these days. Okay. Now, again, I'm not expert, to be very honest, so I'm not going to go too deep here, but you can learn Docker. It will take 5-6 hours max to understand how Docker works and how you can install. And again, this is what I'm trying to show. In all the major GCP, AWS, Azure, Docker is already pre-available. So you can go and try to do a Docker install here at Ubuntu or even in Windows. Okay, it's not a big deal. I have installed Docker on my Ubuntu. So you can try and just install Docker and create an image, and that same image can be provided or put into various different systems, and you will be able to work with them. Make sense?
Okay, so makes sense.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So of course, it is not exactly the role of data scientists, to be very honest, to use Dockers or to know very well with Dockers. But yes, there is such overlap between these topics that little bit of knowledge would not harm you. But even technically, even I know a very little bit in Docker. Different people handle Docker work in my organization as well. So that's my knowledge about Docker. Okay. Okay, guys. So what I want to do is I want to take a pause here, and